Now that we've generated our key, we can use it to go through the same caching process that we used before. I'm going to first start off by cleaning up these console logs because we really don't need them anymore. And then I'm going to put a couple comments down just to guide myself. So like I said, this is going to be the same caching process that we used previously, but again, I just want to see the comments so we get some good idea of what we're trying to achieve. So first, we're going to see if we have a value for key in Redis. If we do, return that. Otherwise, issue the query and store the result in Redis. So that's the general idea. That's overall what we're trying to do here. So the first thing we need to do is check Redis to see if we have a value for the key that we just created. Now we've done this a couple times, or at least one time before. So I'm going to define a new value or new variable, and I'm going to call it cache value. So this is essentially the value that we had stored inside of our cache. I'm then going to place the await keyword, and we're going to reach into Redis with client.get, and we're going to ask for whatever value is stored at key. At the end of the last video, you'll recall that I had said that our key needs to be a string, but right now it's an object. And I just realized that in truth, we need to actually make use of this key more than one time. So rather than trying to turn this into JSON like every time we need to make use of it, let's just turn it into JSON up here just one time. So I'm going to say JSON.stringify, and I'm going to wrap that entire object.assign call like so. You'll also notice that we are making use of the await keyword now. So to make sure that I can make use of await, I'm also going to decorate this function as being async like so. So don't forget the async keyword up here. All right, so this is going to retrieve our cache value. So now that we've got our cache value, we're going to check to see if that value actually exists or if it's null and like doesn't exist at all. So I'll say if cache value, then how about for right now, we just try to console log out cache value and see what we're working with. Otherwise, we want to actually issue the query and store the result. So to actually issue the query, we have to run this line of code right here, which calls the original exec function with whatever arguments were passed to this function. I'm going to remove the return keyword here because we definitely don't want to return the result of this. We want to somehow like let the query happen and then work with the result in some fashion. So I'm going to take the result keyword off, and I'm going to instead use the async await syntax again to get the result of the query. So I'll say const result is await exec.apply. So this will wait for the query to be executed, and then whatever comes back from MongoDB will be assigned to result right here. Now again, before we try to like go too far inside of one video without really understanding what we're working with here, let's console log out result as well and just see what we're dealing with. So I'm going to say console log result like so. Now if we execute this code right here, I'm going to definitely expect to see some errors because we're not actually returning any valuable data from this thing right now. We're just trying to console log stuff. Nonetheless, I do want to execute this code and just see how it's going. So I'm going to save this file, and I'm going to go over to the browser and refresh the page. Now you will probably see some like status 500 errors down here, which is totally fine. Let's open up our terminal and see what we've got. Okay, so again, we see a couple of errors here, like failed to deserialize or anything else, but also right above those errors, you'll see the console log of what was retrieved from MongoDB. So in both cases, I see some information about the current user that we were trying to fetch. Cool, so it looks like we're definitely successfully retrieving data from MongoDB inside the exec function. However, I want you to notice that this is what appears to be JSON data right here. And that's actually kind of relevant. We'll talk about why in just a moment. So let's take a pause right now. We're going to come back to the next video and talk about why we care about the fact that this is JSON data at all.